I'm joined on the line by former British light middleweight champion Ted Cheeseman. He's going to be taking on Sam Eggington for the IBF International title in the main event of Matchroom Fight Camp Week 1 on August 1st. Very, very unique setting, very interesting setup that Matchroom has going on for its return to boxing in the United Kingdom. And Ted has been kind enough to take a few minutes from his evening to talk to me. Ted, how are you doing?
Yeah, no, that's all right. I'm all good, mate. You?
I'm doing pretty well. Can't complain. It's great to have boxing back. Really, it's
Yeah.
obviously with everything that's been going on in the world, there was maybe a little bit of a time where I thought that it may have been even longer till we got boxing back. I don't know how you felt about boxing coming back at this point already in the summer. I don't. Did you think that this was going to be something that this was going to take a lot longer to happen?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought, to be honest, by the way it was looking to start lockdown, I didn't think we were going to be fighting until 2021, to be honest. But obviously, I was glad to see it back so soon.
Yeah, yeah, I do think that it was. I'm not sure if I felt maybe 2021, but I did think it was going to take a lot longer, like maybe closer to the fall, and not necessarily in the summer. But obviously, uh, a lot of boxers have had to adjust a lot when it comes to either training or how they spend time at home. How have you been sort of been dealing with the last few months with COVID-19? I know you had a fight already planned out in March, right before all this madness began.
Yeah, obviously, like you say, I was training for March the 28th, so I'd done a whole camp for that, and then obviously a week before I got cancelled, so I was a bit gutted. But then I had a good break just as the lockdown started. And then, obviously, as soon as a few people started mentioning about fights maybe happening in July, August, I found facilities to use and just got straight back in camp.
Yeah, so when you Eddie Hearn first approached you, I assume it was Eddie Hearn who approached you first about this fight against Sam Eggington, and not just the fight, but the circumstances and the environment, the location of it all. What was your first reaction to you upon hearing that this fight was going to take place essentially on Eddie Hearn's backyard in an outdoor venue, which is quite frankly something we haven't really seen before, even with all these different ways that we've seen boxing over here in the United States and in Mexico and all over the world. What little countries have actually had boxing restart?
Yeah, you know what? At the start, I was excited because obviously I was training for like a warm up fight, 8 rounder in March, and obviously I've had a lot of title fights and big fights, so it's sort of hard to get yourself so motivated for them. Obviously, you know you need to train hard, you need to get through it, but it ain't so enjoyable and exciting as it is being in a big title fight and you knowing that the fight actually means something. And then obviously as it's gone on more longer as the fights have been made, you start thinking about it more. And really and truly, it's a big event. Like it's going to go down in history, and in years and years, it's going to go like people are going to be talking about when boxers have to fight with no crowd and in a venue in Eddie Hearn's back garden. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. It's something that's going to be talked about for years. So it's great to be top of the bill on the first show, and set the pace.
And and as you mentioned, it's going to be historic in a lot of different ways. Obviously, Matchroom is one of the first few major promotions that has had boxing return at this point. By the time you step in the ring, we would have only gotten, at least that we know of, a top rank over here in the United States. A Golden Boy promotion slowly kind of starting to get back into the fold as well within the next few weeks. Have you been able to check out any of the what little of boxing that we've had so far in the last couple of weeks?
To be honest, I've seen a few highlights, but there ain't really been sort of nothing around my weight really to study on, so I ain't really been too involved. All I've been doing really is focusing on my fight. You know what I mean? But obviously, because obviously as well, it's been quite under the radar. I ain't really sort of known about the fights until after the fights have happened or the afternoon of the day the fight's happening. So there ain't been a lot of exposure for the fight, like naming and announcing that the fights are happening. So you're not really knowing about it till either last minute or after it's happened. But I think now everyone's seeing all the sports are sort of coming back, so everyone's thriving and getting really excited, and there's a lot of massive viewing figures for all the sports. I see something, there was a boxing show on ESPN, and it had something like 400,000 viewers on average. So it's crazy numbers, and it's great for us fighters.
Yeah, and it's good a lot of these younger fighters are getting exposure in a situation that otherwise they wouldn't have gotten the exposure. But like them, I'm sure you and all these other fighters that are going to be a part of the Matchroom Fight Camp series have had to make a lot of adjustments. Obviously, the UK they've had a lot of restrictions in terms of training in gyms and with lockdowns and everything like that. In regards to preparation for this fight, I know you had a full camp pretty much done for your canceled fight, but has there been anything that you've had to perhaps change as a result of the lockdowns or with gyms closing down as a result?
The main thing really, like obviously, like I said, I've been able to get facilities for strength gym and for a boxing gym. So the only thing that has been different is the only sparring we've had is sort of in-house sparring. Obviously now it's going to start changing the next few weeks as the restrictions are getting less, but it's only sort of the boys in our gym who've been tested and whatever. But there's a lot of good fighters in my gym, do you know what I mean, around all around our weight. You got Conor Benn, Felix Cash, John Ryder, John Doherty. These are all just near my weight who I can spar with. I mean, these are all top fighters, and so it's good sparring anyway. You don't always have to look for outside. The only thing why it's good to have people come in from other gyms is because sometimes, obviously, when you're sparring people in the same gym all the time, you sort of know what you're working on. So you can't always practice what you need to practice.
So kind of moving on to the fight itself against Sam Eggington. Obviously, Sam is a guy who's slowly starting to make his way up at junior welterweight, light middleweight. More specifically, it's coming from welterweight, but you've had plenty of experience at this weight right now. You know, obviously, looking back, this is a very interesting fight because obviously Eggington has plenty of experience, but you, even in your just 24 years old, I believe you are, you've had also a lot of big fight experience and competing in your own title fights. When you view this fight from an experience standpoint, how do you look at it in terms of where you put your experience in title fights and fighting at this weight compared to what Eggington has had in the past in his big fights, and maybe not necessarily being at 100 light middleweight throughout his career?
Eggington's probably had a few more fights than me, obviously, like you say, and some of them have been at a good level. But obviously, he's had quite a few losses as well, obviously, and so a lot of it's been taken out of him. Do you know what I mean? So it's how much he's got left. Although he's only young, he's had some big defeats already, like bad defeats. And to be honest, for me, I'm still fresh. I believe in my own career. I've only had one defeat. That was when my head weren't mentally there. But I'm past that, and I've got a lot of experience, like you say. I can box, I can fight. I've got a lot of heart. I've got a good chin. You know what I mean? There ain't much I can't do. It's about my head being mentally focused and turned up on the night. As long as I do that, I think I'll be Eggington comfortably.
You know, one thing that I look at this match, especially looking at Eggington, is that he is someone who's had quite a number of defeats in his career, some of them by stoppage, whether it be the Liam Smith fight or even the stoppage fight that he lost that took a lot of people by surprise a few years ago. You view Sam Eggington's losses and how they happened, and do you believe that you could potentially be maybe even the next guy to not just beat Sam Eggington, but maybe even stop him inside the distance?
Yeah, I believe I'll get Sam Eggington out there before the distance. I mean, I think with Sam, he takes a lot of shots, and all my main thing is, I believe I'll get Sam out there before the distance. The problem with Sam is hitting him, not load up and hit him with a lot of shots, but It's whether or not to take your time and be patient and make it an easy fight, or load up, waste energy and make it a hard fight. And all I got to do is make sure I just take my time, keep hitting him repetitively, and then sooner or later one's gonna hit home and he's gonna go over. Be finished.
You mentioned the mental game and how that could be key for you in this fight. Obviously, you're going to be fighting in an outdoor venue with no fans, so it's a far cry to the environments that you've had to deal with, especially in your title fights. How different do you believe the atmosphere, or how much do you feel like your mental game will have to be adjusted in when it comes to this fight? Because I've talked to a couple of boxers, and they've mentioned how different it feels being in that type of environment compared to being in front of 8, 9, 10, 11,000 people cheering them or cheering against them. It's a different type of feeling. Do you feel that you might have to make some sort of mental adjustment when it comes to the environment that you're going to be put into?
I think you got to treat it like there is 10,000 people there, and the same way you'd have to deal with it then, and that's block everything out. And the main focus is winning. You know what I mean? It don't matter who's there or how many people are there. The main focus is getting in there, winning, and pushing on with your career. And it don't matter whether there's a crowd there or anyone else is there. All you got to worry about is the man in the other corner and making sure that you win.
Obviously, the last year, 2019, you've had a lot of big fights, and it didn't really go your way. You've obviously the fights against Sergio Garcia, Kieran Conway, Scott Fitzgerald, a lot of them very, very competitive fights. For someone as young as you to be getting those types of fights, what did you, when you look back, especially during these last few months, and you've had a lot of time to reflect on how to improve yourself as a boxer and look back on this past year that you've had, what do you kind of take away from those fights that you've had in 2019? Do you look at that as sort of a humbling experience, stepping into the ring with those guys and start maybe even getting better, maybe not necessarily by winning, but just being in the ring with some of those great fighters?
Yeah, exactly that. You're picking up a lot of experience. And like you say, I'm still 24. I'm still a baby in the sport. And I've picked up a lot of valuable experience. And I've had a whole nearly a year since October, since my last fight, of just learning, improving, soaking it all up, working in the gym. And I ain't had a lot of time, and I even got a chance to have a little rest this year. And I ain't had a rest really my whole pro career. You know what I mean? So I've got my body refreshed, my mind refreshed. I've been learning a lot. I've picked up a lot of experience, and now it's time to put it all to show on August the 1st.
Was there one thing in those fights that you had in 2019 where you kind of look back and you think to yourself, probably shouldn't have been doing this kind of stuff, probably could work on that a little bit more, that you feel that you had the chance and with the time and the rest you could work on a little more in preparation for this fight against Sam Eggington?
Two things, obviously. When I fought Sergio Garcia, I had problems outside the ring, so I weren't there mentally, but obviously I shouldn't have been chucking my head in to take punishment, but that was punishing myself, as my head just weren't there, and I was just punishing myself, like I said. And with the Fitzgerald fight, I believe I won, but if I was to go back again, every time I made a miss, I was making a miss a lot. Every time I made a miss, I would have come back a lot quicker, and instead of sometimes just thinking, all right, I've landed a shot, let's move, let's recoup, and land a shot. And now I would land a shot after making a miss, and then I made a miss, jump straight back on him.
Obviously, with this fight, obviously you haven't had a win since 2018, and Sam Eggington is a very tough opponent. You're still pretty early in your career, all things considered, but how important is it for you to get this win? How much would it mean to you to finally kind of get over the hump, get the monkey off your back, so to speak, and finally have your hand raised in victory?
Yeah, 100%. It means the world to me, obviously. I want to go as far as I can in this sport. And my passion and love for the sport is back more than ever this year. And I'm more focused than ever. And I know by beating Sam Eggington, I take his rank number 5 in the IBF, and it opens a lot of big doors. And I'm at the perfect age now of 24 to start pushing on with my career. And like I said earlier on, I've learned a lot in these fights, and now it's time to take all the learning I've done and the experience I've got and start pushing on with my career.
A couple of things before I let you go. Obviously, you know, a lot of these different boxing promotions and entities when they're running shows, they've had their own different types of COVID-19 testing. What has been the protocol like that you know of, that you've had to deal with, or that you've been told that you'll encounter once you head into Brentwood for the fight? What's going to be? Do you know what the protocols are going to be in place for it?
I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think we go in the hotel, we get tested, we get the key to go to our room. Once we go to our room, we've got to stay in the room 24 hours. When the results come back, if we're okay, we box. If we're not okay, you have to just go straight home. Obviously, and self-isolate.
Lastly, I know you mentioned John Ryder as someone who, you know, was been the sparring partner and everything. John has been in the news lately because he said that he wants to fight Canelo Alvarez, and he's out there looking for opponents. From a guy who's been in big fights, is that something that you'd be interested in watching? Because I think a fight against Canelo and John Ryder would be a very, very good fight.
Definitely, and I think John's earned his shot. I think everyone knows, like every boxing people know, John deserves to win that fight against Callum Smith.
Agreed.
Yeah, and it showed what level he is. At middleweight, he had his defeats, and obviously his confidence went there once he got going at super middleweight. He's come on leaps and bounds. He's shown his experience, and he showed he's really a world level fighter in the super middleweight division. And I think he deserves his shot. He's paid his dues to boxing. He's been in the game long enough, and he should be world champion now. But obviously now he ain't. He deserves to get his chance at at Canelo, as it looks like Callum Smith doesn't want to give John the rematch.
Well, any last words you want to say to everyone out there? How can people follow you on social media? Any last words to the people before your fight against Sam Eggington on August 1st?
I'll just tune in. It's going to be a really good fight. It's going to be an exciting fight. As you say, we're both fan-friendly styles, and I think it's got to make another classic fight that people talk about for ages. And my Instagram's Cheeseman1995. And my Twitter is Ted_Mr. Fisher_.
Ted Cheeseman going up against Sam Eggington for the IBF International light middleweight title on August 1st in the main event of Matchroom Fight Camp Week 1. Thanks so much for hopping on board, and best of luck to you on August 1st.
Cheers. Thanks a lot, Carlos.